welcome to Murder Therapy with Dolphins. The look.
I was like, wait a minute, what did she mean to say
Well, the
that?
only reason I did. So the only reason I said that is because Mom is like our number one fan,
I
and
love her.
she has been pushing our podcast. She'll talk about it with people, and she's like, it's a true crime podcast, but it also, she's integrated the paranormal into true crime. She talks about how much she enjoys it, and her work husband thought that she said murder therapy with dolphins, which is really
Oh,
funny because obviously there's nothing scary about dolphins, even though my mother says they're the thugs of the sea. But
well, I mean, I would love to do an episode while swimming with. That's probably impossible, but that would be fun. Murder therapy with dolphins.
well, um, I don't know that I want to swim with dolphins. I probably would have been okay, but when Mom went to Mexico, they were going to like whatever what do you call it? You book those things for your cruise,
Excursions.
excursions. Yes, that. She, yeah, I about said exorcism, but I'm very morbid. That is not what they were scheduling. But she wanted to swim with the dolphins, and then she read that they will potentially try to have sex with you.
Yeah.
And
Isn't
fun
that
fact,
gross?
it is so gross. But did you know that dolphins, like, they get the blowfish and they'll suck the, like, poison out of it because it makes them high, and they pass that around between the other dolphins?
What?
Yeah, that's a thing. So my mom calls them thugs of the ocean.
I just have visions in my
Oh,
head. We've already talked
I
about
love
how
it.
my head and my mind works in the last episode. Now it's running wild.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
reel me back
Well,
in.
your mind. Yeah, reel it back in because your mind's going to go a little bit all over the place with the person that we are covering today. By the way, you're not listening to Murder Therapy with Dolphins. It is Murder Therapy with Dolphins.
In case you
I just
guys
want
need to know that.
in case somebody is new listening and you had no idea, it is not
Yeah.
dolphins. There's no talk about the ocean or anything here. I don't
No,
really know that much about dolphins other than my mom
no
calls them thugs.
crustacean life here.
Yes.
We do
Oh,
want to fair warn you. The particular day we're recording this, which is obviously not the day you guys are listening to. If you watch this on YouTube, yes, we change our clothes. We we're recording three episodes
yes.
in one
Oh,
day.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
we all
So
have vacations coming up. So we picked
we
a heavy
do.
hitter so we could do multiple parts to give you guys episodes and schedule the launches while we're on vacations. So
Yes. Yes. So obviously, I'm sure you have seen in the title, we are talking about the infamous Jeffrey Dahmer, and he's a lot.
yeah.
A lot of my followers know that he is my favorite. Now, when I say favorite, I really want to emphasize something. I don't condone his actions. I think he is a very fucking evil human being, obviously. I just wish that Lionel would have let us look at his brain because in the psychology world, I feel like we could have learned so much. I really truly mean that. I
Yeah.
do think he was sick. I'm not condoning anything that he ever did. I'm not fascinated with him. I'm just fascinated with what went through his head. I just want to make that clear.
Yeah.
I like to study him. I don't like him as a person. I think he is a very shitty human being. I don't think that he's resting in peace whatsoever.
He
If you
better
want my
not
honest
be.
opinion. I don't think so. I really don't.
Because
I
God
think that
knows the
he is
freaking
what
victims are not, and the victims' families still to this day are not.
absolutely. Absolutely. So when I say he's my favorite, I don't want people to think that I look at him as a celebrity because I don't. I
We're
don't think
not
that people should look at
glorifying
any
him
murder.
for the sake
Yes,
of the
I'm not
victims'
glorifying
families.
him. Absolutely not. But as far as like case study itself, he is a perfect example of what nature versus nurture is that we talk about in the psych world. He is somebody that truly did have multiple personality disorders, not multiple personalities, but he has a lot. He is a whole situation. Um,
Yep.
and I truly believe had he been born in today's time, every bit of that would have been nipped in the bud. I
Yeah.
have no ifs, ands, and buts about it because I think we have come so far in science with what we know about the brain and mental health and mental illness and warning signs that it could have been nipped in the bud. He may have killed somebody, but I don't think it would have been to the to the catastrophe as to what it turned out to be.
I mean, if you
Had
think about it, with science the way that it is, why there? I mean, it's gotta be something, some hormones, some part of the brain that maybe was damaged or didn't get development. Like we should be able to see, like, because it's not normal behavior to have the because people describe it as a craving. It's not
it
normal.
was to him,
Yeah,
which we'll talk about later on.
yeah.
So just like what Ashley said, we are breaking this up into multiple parts. It will be released on a week by week basis because I'm going to be at the beach.
And I'm going to the desert.
Ashley's going. Ashley's going to the desert. She's going to some hot place, but and I'm going to a hot place. But yeah, so we do change our clothes. We're not disgusting. Yeah. I'm going to try to get this done in 3 parts. It could potentially be 4 because Jeff's a lot.
He's so
he's
much. Which who
He is, and
who
there's a
hasn't
lot.
watched or heard something about him? Let's be real. Everybody knows his
Well,
case. It's been overly
yes, yes.
saturated, but where you get to hear everybody's different opinions when they cover his stuff. So that's what makes it unique.
Well, I think even over years, because there has been many documentaries released about him. There has been many books wrote. Um, we have to say it, but Evan Peters just recently played him in
Oh, my
Netflix's
heart.
series. And that is the I have watched made for TV movies about Jeffrey Dahmer. I have watched several things where they've had the actors, portraying him. Evan Peters nailed Jeffrey Dahmer to a fucking T. They kept a therapist on set and they would ask him in between scenes, dude, are you okay? Like, do you need to take a break? Because I mean, this is such a heavy, heavy, heavy topic. But he did amazing.
He was fantastic.
And he was. I mean, he even sounded like him.
He
like
said, if you watch in interviews, he said that was the hardest role for him to play. And we all know, because, oh God, he's just fantastic. He's adorable. And we all know he came from American Horror Story. And that's some messed up stuff. And he said this
it
was the
was.
hardest role for him to play. So, yeah.
It's uh,
He said it
what's
mentally
funny.
messed with it, pulled him down into a weird place. He said it was hard.
Oh, it was. And I wasn't laughing at that aspect, but I literally was just thinking because Nathan had went by to get Biggie. So I have to tell this story, but we were laying in bed one night and I can't remember what he said, but I was like, "You don't know me at all." And he's like, "Yes, I do." I was like, "What's my middle name?" So then he tells me. And then I immediately go to, "Who's my favorite serial killer?" And he was like, "No normal human being should ever even ask that." It's like, of course,
But we know
he
what
was
it
like,
is.
"It's that one guy." And I was like, "Say his name." Dahmer. And
Dahmer,
we
we're
had
finally
literally just
doing
got
it.
done watching the series. Yes, and we're finally, I don't want to say doing a Dahmer, but we're finally covering
Mm,
Jeffrey Dahmer.
some
Like,
real,
so
yeah. See, I don't worry. I know your favorite serial killer, Jody. I got you covered.
thanks.
What's mine?
Thanks. Edmund Kemper.
Yes, we're
Yeah, she's
soulmates.
fascinated with him. She is. She is so fascinated with him. Another thing I have to say, just because I told my mother I was going to say this tonight. So mom listens every week. She loves it. She's digging the podcast, which I think is
Digging.
great. And I know she loves it.
I love
So
that term
we were talking,
because murder, bodies get buried, you dig stuff.
digging.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mom's digging. But so we're sitting at the ball field today, and I pull out my notes because I'm highlighting certain things that I'm, going to touch base on throughout as you and I cover this evening. Of course, you all, it'll be week by week. But she goes, why are you covering Jeff? I like when you guys cover, cases that you don't know. And I said, well, believe it or not, there's things that even in my research that I learned about Jeffrey that I didn't know.
Ooh,
And
I'm
that
excited
speaks
now.
volume. Yes. And I think that as people dig, you end up finding like more and more information. So then my mom goes, well, there's things about him I wish I didn't know.
Well, I
I
mean,
know.
the fact that she called him Jeff, it's so funny.
She's
Like,
like, why are you doing Jeff? I was like, well, because, he's a big case and people have different opinions. I said, and I learned something. And I won't say it at this time because I don't want to give it away. And she goes, why are you talking about that at a baseball game? And I'm like, because I'm morbid, Mom. I'm
we're
morbid.
not gonna stay away from the bigger. We call them heavy hitters, Jody and I. We're not gonna stay away from them,
Hmm.
but we want to bring you guys stuff that you haven't heard about. That's gonna be our
Yeah, and
goal,
it's not
but
going to be
you're gonna get our opinions on the big
eventually.
stuff too.
Well, yeah, eventually we will do Ted Bundy, Edmund Kemper, which I'm going to let you run the reins on that because that's your guy. John Wayne Gacy, I hate him. I do not really want to cover BTK. I think he is like what is it? He's like the wannabe in the serial killer realm. He really is. I
I know.
think such
Oh God,
he's
it's for
such a
another day. But Ryan
classy.
made me watch. Like my husband is. I love scary movies. My son and I both love scary movies, and I'm into like the paranormal scary movies. My husband, you go, I want to watch it. I get in the mood in October, and I'm like, I want to watch a scary movie, and he puts on a documentary about BTK. I'm like, this was not what I was talking about, but we're gonna we're
That's
gonna roll
because
with it.
real life is way scarier than like the
We're gonna roll
movies.
with it. And I had never seen, and this was like years ago, but like, I think it's fascinating how long he kept up a normal life and
Oh,
doing
he's
that on the
such.
side. But yeah, he's
Now
kind
what
of
you're doing.
boring. He is kind of boring. I mean, so
Well,
I don't
it's
know.
because he's not original, and he tried to pick his own name, and which pisses me off because it's like, no,
Mm,
sir, you don't get to pick your nickname. You are giving your nickname. Like,
facts.
no, that's not how this works. So, fuck off, BTK.
Yeah.
So, anywho,
Mm,
yeah. So,
I gotta show it
oh
off.
yes,
I
by the
know.
way, look,
Oh
everybody
gosh,
pay
hold on.
attention because Ashley's got the
It's so
Tumblr.
dark in here, you
Uh,
guys. It's a black cup,
you
but
can't
it's
see
got
it.
our image on it, and it's
It's
fantastic.
got our image on it, murder therapy with all top.
And yeah,
It's
we gotta
beautiful.
explain it to the people who listen on Spotify. So it's pretty.
Yeah, yeah, she was showing her cup. It's beautiful. So
We want to
if you
raffle one
are listening
off.
on Spotify,
We're
we
gonna
are going to
figure out the
raffle one off.
rules.
Yeah, we haven't done that yet, but
Yep.
we'll get to it. So,
Yes.
all right. So Jeffrey Dahmer, are we
We're
ready? Who
ready.
is also known as the Milwaukee Campbell. Oh, one more thing before we get started. In case you do not know who Jeffrey Dahmer is, I'm going to go ahead and give you a disclaimer. Unfortunately, Ashley can't run. She has to suffer through every ounce of his fuckery. And when I tell you that there is a whole ton of fuckery, there is. We will be talking about necrophilia, dismemberment. We will be
Cannibalism.
talking, unfortunately, cannibalism. There, Jeff checked all the boxes. So I just want he did. Jeff covered. He was like,
He
mark that one
checks
off
all
my
my
list.
boxes for a murderer.
But he he's a situation. So you have been warned. I will try
Get
my
comfy.
best to give trigger warnings, but unfortunately with him there's just sometimes that he just does things that are yeah. There is animal cruelty. I'm telling you, this is a very heavy case. So this might not be for you. And if that's the case, that's okay. We'll see you in a couple more weeks, but just understand we're hitting pretty hard today. Okay?
Just
All
don't
right.
permanently leave us, okay?
Yeah,
We
don't
love you.
permanently leave us. We won't always talk
Yep.
about Jeffrey, but all right. So Jeffrey Dahmer also was given the nickname as the Milwaukee Campbell. Campbell. He was not Campbell's soup.
He
He was
he was not a
the
bowl of soup, guys.
Milwaukee cannibal. Not to say that he probably didn't turn some of his victims into soup, but yeah. Anywho, he
Right
was
there,
the
I didn't know that.
Milwaukee. Well, I don't know if he did or not. I'm just saying I accidentally said Campbell, and then I thought
No,
Campbell's soup, and I'm like,
not about
he could
soup.
have turned his
I didn't know he was
what
considered. I didn't know his name, like what murder name he got.
he was given the Milwaukee Cannibal or the Milwaukee Monster
Hmm.
because he was born. Was he born in Milwaukee? Well, we'll get to that. I'm pretty certain he was born in Milwaukee. But all right, I think that a lot of people, they dive into Dahmer and they start going on about his early childhood. But what we talked about earlier is he is a prime example of the nature versus nurture, meaning he is a combination of both. He didn't really have the best upbringing, but he has some bad genetics too.
Terrible.
Okay, I'm not excusing it. But his mother, Joyce Flint, that was her maiden name. She was born on February 7th, 1936, in Columbus, Wisconsin. Her parents were of German descent. She had a younger brother named Donald who actually ended up passing away in 2011.
Mm,
It's not very clear when she met Lionel Dahmer or when they got married, but she did meet Lionel. She ended up, they fell in love, obviously, and they got married. And their first son, Jeffrey Dahmer, who we are covering today, was born on May 21st, 1960, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So that's probably why he got the name of, the Milwaukee Cannibal. Um, she did not have an easy pregnancy. Apparently, Joyce battled mental health issues, and then in her pregnancy, she had what they called paralysis going on, and she had to actually get injections, and she got shots of morphine
wow.
as well. Yeah, so I can't remember what the other injection was that she got, which obviously we know in today's time you can't take those things when you're pregnant. About the only thing you're supposed to take is Tylenol, and that's it. So
It.
she was getting those injections because apparently that was the only thing that was helping with this paralysis that they had no explanation for whatsoever. And then on top of that, she was dealing with mental health issues, so she was taking antipsychotics while being pregnant
Mm.
with Jeff. So yeah, that's just food for thought. So think about that.
I wonder what that did or how it affected him.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
They're
It would have
harsh
been real.
medications,
Those
antipsychotics.
are. Yes, they are. It's a lot. But it's yeah, it's just a lot. Even after she had him, I think she dealt with some postpartum depression. I don't know if during that time that they diagnosed people with postpartum depression or whatever,
Yeah.
but she didn't really bond with Jeffrey. Like, you know what I mean? Like she
Yeah.
just didn't. It's yeah, it's sad, really. All right, let's carry on. So in 1962, the Dahmers ended up moving to Iowa for a period of time. And this is so Jeff's dad, Lionel, could work on his PhD in chemistry, which also will play a big role. Jeff's dad's,
Yes,
career
ma'am.
choice plays a big role. In 1964, Jeff was actually diagnosed with a double hernia in his scrotum, and he had to have surgery for that.
Okay.
And I don't think that they actually really ever explained to him what he was having surgery for. I think his parents just kind of took him there. And to me, that would be traumatic enough for a kid if you think about it. Like, here you're going and you have all these doctors and everything around you. And yeah. Now, years down the road, when all of this comes to light about what Jeff did, Joyce did interview people, and she likes to say that Jeff had a completely normal childhood. There was no warning signs, and she believes that he was sick. Lionel
Funny.
Dahmer has wrote a book, and he explains, and I got to give it to Lionel. He does say Jeff didn't really have the best childhood. He doesn't really acknowledge that he neglected him, and I don't necessarily think that Lionel ever intentionally neglected him, but he talked about what a handful Joyce was and how Joyce constantly wanted Jeff's dad's attention
Mm-hmm.
and how he wasn't giving Jeff any attention because he was so busy catering to Joyce and what Joyce wanted. And then Jeff's just kind of, to the side, and they would bicker and they would argue and they would fight constantly. And he's just a small child. So he has the surgery, and supposedly after the surgery is kind of when the not I don't want to really call it cold, but just that really like flat effect and everything kind of started. And he just kind of seemed distant and very reserved and just
Hmm.
completely different than how he was prior before. Um, Here you go, Ash. In November of 1966, this is when the Dahmers moved to Doylestown, Ohio. They're in your home state now.
God.
Um, there was other moves that took place. Like they moved a lot, which is also kind of damaging to kids when you're moving them constantly
Yeah.
and constantly. Um, in Jeff's first grade year, he actually had a first grade teacher talk about her concerns. Like she's like, I feel like he's being neglected. There's just something not right.
Mm.
And nothing was ever done. No CPS was ever notified or anything. But this first grade teacher did, say, I just feel like something's not right with him. Something needs to be done. And it all fell through. In 1968, they actually ended up moving to Bath, Ohio.
Ooh,
Um,
they're staying in Ohio.
Yeah. So, hey, how far is Bath, Ohio, from where you're at?
Oh, you're gonna make me Google.
Curious.
I was gonna say because
I,
I'm pretty sure Bath, Ohio is like where it all. He stayed there for a while. I'm almost positive. Hold on, I'm gonna look
I'm
because
yeah.
now I
While
want to
you're
know
looking, I'm just
because
curious to know how
the
far that is.
house is still there that he lived in, and I heard that they have a lot of like traffic that come by and look at the house. People stop. People take
Just because
pictures.
people know that
I wouldn't
it's
want to live in that
the house.
house. I would not.
I
Oh,
remember seeing it up for sale at one
really?
point, and it was like retailed really high just because of what happened, which is really disturbing if you think
Any other
about it.
house they're trying to
'Cause
like pawn it off and give it pretty much away for free because of what happens in a house. But
oh no, it was a lot. It was like a really high dollar, and I'm pretty certain it was when I was in high school. Because I remember seeing it, and people was like, the house that Jeff committed his, obviously most of y'all know, but his first murder in, it's for sale, and it's like, why? I wouldn't want to live there.
yeah, is
Just
it
saying.
Bath Township or how's it spelled?
It just says Bath, Ohio, like Bath, Bath.
Oh, okay. Because I'm getting like Bath County. Oh my God, it's not. It's 2 hours and 40 minutes from Dayton.
Really interesting. So Jeff did end up with a little brother, David Dahmer, who has since changed his name, obviously. I don't think that anybody really knows his whereabouts or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I can understand why he would want to dissociate himself from all that. I don't blame him one bit for changing his name. I
Not,
completely get it.
not at all.
But did you know that Jeff actually picked out the name for his little brother?
No.
He did. He picked out the name. And just like before, Joyce also, I don't know that she took meds and stuff with David like what she did with Jeff, but she did suffer from postpartum depression again. And she was even placed in a psychiatric hospital. She had suicide attempts.
Mm,
Joyce was not well at
yeah.
all. At all.
Sweet mama.
Um, I know. Like part of me I feel bad for it, but then part of me I just get really mad. I guess just at some of the actions that she picked and the way that she's gone about. Well, Joyce is dead now. Spoiler alert. I will tell you that. She did die many years after, Jeff was murdered in prison. Another spoiler alert, but she it's like she never wanted to just own up to there were things that she did that did contribute to it. And I think she just had so much guilt over everything and her choices that she tried to put band-aids over the guilt
Mm,
and blame something. You know what I mean?
yeah.
That's my opinion. I'm kind of jumping ahead, but I get really aggravated with her because I just want to smack the shit out of her and be like, listen, lady, you're creating one of the world's worst sociopaths. Like, I need you to wake the fuck up. Like,
Jody
yeah.
needs a time machine.
I need a time machine and be like, your son is mentally unstable. So, in Jeff's childhood, he begins to start, his red flags started very, very, very early.
Yeah.
He was fascinated with roadkill, and he would collect these things. I mean, and I guess in his mind it was like, well, they're already dead, so what's it going to hurt? And at his house in the wooded area, there was this little building, and he would take these things there and he would go in because he was fascinated with what things look like inside, which I can kind of understand childhood curiosity, but he talks later on in years about how he enjoyed feeling like the
Ugh.
organs in his hands and just all the weird things. And one night at dinner, they're eating chicken, and he looks at his dad and he says, "Dad, what would happen if you bleach chicken bones?" And his dad, and I don't think, given his profession, that he would have ever in a million years taken that as a red flag. And I truly believe he was like, oh my gosh, this would be a good bonding thing for me and my son. And he did. He showed him these things. He was like, well, yeah,
He's a
let's do it.
chemist. He was like, oh, yes.
He's a
Like,
chemist.
maybe he's asking these questions
Colin,
to
well,
bond.
Colin asks me all the time when I come home from work, Mom, let's talk about a difficult patient. Of course, I can't tell him names or anything, but he'll ask me questions about certain psychiatric disorders and how it affects the brain and what does this and this and this and, what medicines do you all use? He's very curious. Also, Colin wants to be a neurosurgeon when he gets older. So, of course,
My
I've
guy.
taken my profession, and if he's curious about it, I'm going to manifest that, and I'm going to try to, feed his mind as much as I possibly can.
And
But
hopes
never in
that
a
it's
million years,
positive outcome. Let's.
I don't anticipate that Colin's going to be getting drills and drilling, people's heads
No.
open or anything. But I'm just getting at, as parents, we don't look at it like that.
Mm-mm.
It's an educational moment that you're taking, and you're bonding with your kid over something that you do on a day-by-day basis. So in his defense, I would have never looked at it as, wow, my son's going to be a serial killer when he grows up.
My kid don't
You know,
ask me about
I
my
would have never
job.
looked at it. I mean, you're like, no, Colin does. He asks me stuff all the time, and it's. I think it's awesome that he's that
You
curious.
got a cool job.
So
I mean, a kid would be like. I mean, meh.
you
I
have a cool
sent.
job.
I, I'm a payment system specialist at a bank. How much money did you handle today, Mom? How many wires did you send out? No, there's nothing exciting about. No,
How many times did you get cussed out today, Mom?
I don't. We handle a lot of businesses, believe it or not. But because I'm in a
That's
lock,
good.
we're the wire room, so like we're locked in a
The
hole.
wire
The
room.
wire room. So we're locked in a little room.
The
Nobody
wire room.
like we don't even have cleaning people come in. Nobody has access to this room. So yeah, we handle all the
Uh,
ins and outs of your guys' payments, your your ACH transactions, your wire anything to do with payments in and out of people's accounts. We got you, bro. But my kid doesn't see. I'm excited about it. My kid doesn't think it's exciting. It's not cool. I don't get questions asked about my day.
I love it. Well, it's just the point. I
It's
was
fine.
just trying to
Jody's
make
job is cool.
yeah. Well, I do have a cool job. It can be
She
mentally
does.
exhausting, but I
Yeah.
enjoy my job. So we're going to talk about a really like serious animal cruelty moment real quick because I think it's very significant to our
We're
case. So
sorry,
get ready.
guys.
So trigger warning. Yeah, I'm apologizing in advance. So Jeff has learned how to bleach bones, right? He's learning these things. Again, Lionel has no idea that he's doing these things. I think Lionel had learned that he was interested in roadkill, but they were doing taxidermy,
Yeah,
right?
I was
So
gonna say I
he
thought his dad got involved with the the roadkill. So okay,
he did at some point. I think that Jeff had been getting roadkill before the father even realized that this was a thing. And he did teach him how to, what the ins and outs of taxidermy. And again, I think he treated it as something that just a bonding moment for them. But so again, trigger warning. This one hits a little hard. Jeff came across a dog that got hit in the road one day. I don't know if the dog was still alive. I'm hoping that it was already dead at this point. But he got it and he's like, I'm going to take this to my animal cemetery I got going on up in the shack in the woods. So he takes it, he skinned it, he decapitated it. He ended up putting its head on a cross in the woods and he nailed the rest of the body to a tree. Yeah.
Ugh, I
And he's
can't.
just he's a child
And I'm not
doing
allowed
these
to leave. Are
things.
you sure? I can't.
You
Oh.
can't. You have to suffer through it.
Listen, I'm one of those people. I can watch movies where they kill people all day long. I can hear things. You mess with animals, especially dogs. I'm like, oh, my heart's like being ripped apart.
I've never tried to dig deeper to figure out if the dog was alive or not.
Don't do
I
it.
like
Nobody needs to know.
in my Jeffrey Dahmer story, the dog was dead. We're going to leave it at
I
that. I would rather,
appreciate
yeah.
that.
In my Dahmer series, the dog's dead.
Like an animal
For
die. Like I'm
yeah.
watching some like Walking Dead and I see a horse die. Like everybody else can get bit, but please don't get the horse, please.
Now, at 14, so Jeff's doing his animal collection and he's doing all his nasty, weird shit that
He's a
he's been
teenager that
doing.
knows better.
He's a teenager. He does know better at this point. Well, and I think deep down he knew all of that was wrong.
Oh, absolutely.
I really do. I think that he knew that. And the thing is, I probably would look at it a little bit differently if he would have been doing morbid curiosity and asking his dad those weird questions about the insides of animals and stuff instead of being like, well, I'm just let me dig in this. I know it's been dead 8 days, but let me dig in it. Like, so, but at age 14, this is when Jeff says he knew he was gay, which is fine.
Yeah.
It's whatever. But in that time frame, I think the timing of this and the eras that we're in really do play a big part because I think homosexuality was not as
Accepted.
open
Yeah.
and it wasn't as accepted as what it is now here in 2024.
I love that we're doing that just, I mean, because for anybody that's listening at a different time, today's June 1st. It's Pride Month. So that's kind of cool.
Pride month.
Yes.
Poor. I don't know that the Pride community
They
wants to
don't
be
want to
associated with
brag.
Jeffrey
Yeah,
Dahmer.
that's fine.
I don't
But
think that they want that. Yes, but
a
yes, she
weird
is
twist
correct.
on that.
Happy,
Sorry.
happy Pride
Happy
Month.
Pride.
I know, and it wasn't even intentional. I
I
swear.
know. Anyway,
I just we chose Dahmer because it's our 10th episode, and we're celebrating the Big Ten
the
with
Big
a big
10.
case.
But yeah, you were absolutely
So
right. It was not so he was quiet about it. Yeah.
yeah, he was very quiet about it, and I think that he had a lot of pressure going on from his dad too. I do think that one of Lionel's biggest flaws as his dad is he had such high expectations for Jeff. Not that parents shouldn't have high expectations, but I think that there was a lot of pressure of I want you to become this and not necessarily what Jeff wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just my food for thought.
Yeah.
But now Jeff's dad, Lionel, in his book, um, completed that. But I did read that he says there was a point that Jeff was actually sexually abused by a neighbor, and he puts the blame on that aspect as to why Jeff's sexuality was what it was. Saying that that probably didn't happen. It kind of, in some ways, makes sense for some of his behaviors. But I wouldn't necessarily go to the degree that that's what made him gay. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that that played any role. I do think that Jeff was gay. No ifs, ands, and buts about it.
Yeah.
Because he did get a
Facts.
lot of fan mail from women in prison. And he's like, this does nothing for me. Like,
That
you want these new
it
photos of
baffled
this
me.
girl that she sent me? Yeah. And then he's like, I am not a bit interested in that.
Oh,
I
hold
like
on, Jody.
penises. And that's like,
Hold on. We're gonna go back because it started buffering really bad when you said something about the book.
oh, okay.
Um.
So go back.
Yeah. I just hold on. We are at 34 minutes.
Okay, good. We're doing good then.
Because you know. Okay. My son lets you in here. So go back to the book. I'm going to write
Okay,
that down. Okay, 34 minutes. Okay,
ready?
yeah.
All right. So Jeffrey Dahmer he wrote a book which I just recently started reading, and I read that in Jeff's early years, he was apparently sexually abused by a neighbor. And Lionel takes that blame of that event and he relates that to why Jeffrey Dahmer was gay, which I don't think played any role in his sexuality whatsoever. I
No.
think Jeff was gay.
Yeah.
And I think he probably would have been gay had that not happened to him, if that makes sense.
He just would have probably figured it out later.
Yeah, probably. He probably would have. I think that I think that in this circumstance, because Lionel is from a different era and that's not
True.
acceptable, he tries to find where to put the blame for that type of behavior. Because let's
Yeah.
face it, a lot of people, no offense, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but a lot of people in the Christian community, they don't accept that.
And that's okay.
And and that's okay. You
Yeah.
don't have to agree with it or anything, but I think that because he is somebody that he was really happy when Jeff had called and told him while he was in prison that he found God and was going to be baptized. He was really thrilled about that. So
Mm-hmm.
I take it that Lionel must be a very religious man, and that's fine. If it brings him peace and comfort, I'm happy for him. Um, but I think that people have a tendency to go a lot deeper in the Bible, and you get where I'm going with it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
I
So,
just believe and have your own opinions. That's how it is.
yes, that's right. And that's what we'll go on. Well, because I don't want to ruffle any
Yep.
feathers or anything. But,
Do you, boo?
um, yes, whatever makes you happy. Now, during school years, Jeff is at this point in high school. He started alcoholism very early.
Yeah.
He was an alcoholic by 14. And I'm like, where was you getting your hands on alcohol at 14? I don't know that that's ever been discussed, but well, I mean, I understand that it was listen, I get it, but I'm just like,
Where did you
who
get your
was,
hands on alcohol at 14, Jody?
well, yeah, I know I had connections, but yeah,
We all have
it
older
just,
siblings, older friends.
yeah, it was a lot. But a lot of his classmates, he was a misfit. He was drinking in class. He was very awkward.
Wow.
He was also quite the prankster. They have a movie. Have you seen it? My Friend Dahmer. Did you ever watch that?
No. Is it on? What's it on?
I think that you can pull it up on Amazon Prime. I encourage you to watch it. I don't know
Okay.
what the actor's name was that played him, but it's obviously based on a true story, and it's this guy that was friends with Jeff in high school, and he did a comic book, and that's what the comic book was called. And he basically played out what it was like to be his friend, and the big emphasis is back then they thought all these things he did was so funny, and it's not funny now. There's nothing funny about anything that he did.
If they
I
only
mean, but never
knew.
in a million years. Exactly.
Yeah.
And if there's many documentaries out there, which I'm sure a lot of people have watched, but there was one with some of the classmates, and they were talking about how all the odd things that he would do. Like he would fall on the floor and make like he was having a seizure. And of course, people thought that was funny. That's not funny. There's nothing funny about that.
Mm-mm.
Actually ran up to one of his classmates and stood really tall up against him and then backed up, and he was like, dude, what the hell? And he's like, I wanted to know what your heartbeat sounded like. Think about that.
Good
Jeff was
God. Oh.
bad. Yeah, think about it. Yeah, and he was just a teenager. One of the most infamous things that he did in school, though, was senior year, right when they were going to graduate. They were doing their pictures for the yearbook, the group pictures. Do you know what about this? Do you know
I have not heard this.
you do not? Oh,
Mm-mm.
so he managed to get in every single, and he was not active in any groups nor the National Honor Society.
Oh,
The guy
I did
barely
hear this.
barely got through school because he was drinking all the time. He was drinking before school, during school, after school, having weird fucked up thoughts, but he managed to get in all these pictures, even the National Honor Society. So the National Honor Society actually, and you can pull it up and look at it online, and it's so creepy now. But they blacked his face out, so it just looks like this black blob in that picture.
Wow.
And when you look at it now, you don't, again, you would have never thought in a million years that this is what the aftermath of all of that and all those signs was leading up to that.
Mm.
But it's really creepy if you think about it. So it's yeah.
I do remember
Now,
hearing about that now that you say it. Ugh, crazy.
teenager years, he was starting to have some intrusive, dark fantasies.
Yeah.
And that was about attacking somebody. And one person in particular was a jogger that would jog by the house every day at the same time. And he literally was dreaming about attacking this guy and just, I guess, having a forced sexual encounter, I'm assuming, because Jeff talks about how he didn't like to have sex with the willing. He liked to be dominant and he liked to be in control. And he wanted them to be still. He didn't want them to move.
Well,
Um, yes. So he did plan an attack on this jogger and did get in the bushes with a bat ready to attack. And
yeah.
that was the one day that that guy didn't run. And I don't think that that man has ever came forward. But and I know he had to have watched the media and heard that and been like, that could have been me.
Yeah.
Had I run that particular day, I'd be dead. He would have killed him. I don't think it would have just been an attack. I think he would have 100% killed him.
That's why they tell you if you are a jogger, walker, whatever, change your path. Don't walk the same one every day. Just change things up. Don't have a pattern. Don't create a pattern.
Yeah,
It
but
creates
I mean,
safety.
can you imagine hearing that and knowing that all this aftermath that you had that routine and that he's never came forward. I doubt he ever will come
I
forward, but
wouldn't. Yeah.
it's
He need because
I
just
don't
think of
doubt
the
it either.
chaos it would have created in his life. But yeah,
Mhm.
no,
Yeah,
being mentally that person, I bet he was terrified, but like relieved all at the same time.
probably.
Yeah.
Probably. So, obviously we already know Joyce and Lionel, they don't get along. Lionel ended up kind of leaving the house. They decide they're going to divorce, but in the mix of him leaving, Joyce takes it upon herself that she's going to leave. And she takes David with her and leaves Jeff by himself. Now, Jeff was 18 at the time, but still, he's not at an age, nor you and I both know, is he mentally stable to take care of himself at all.
Yeah.
And Jeff's just like, well, this is my life now. I live all by myself, and he's drinking all the time, and he's just I don't know how he was managing to survive. I don't like. I've always been curious like how there's no adults there. Jeff's not working. How
Well,
is he
yeah.
eating? And you
Was
know
his
what I
dad?
mean?
Well,
Like,
his dad was. I mean, because they stated his dad was gone for a long span of time, but it was
hmm
he had a date. He was coming back. Was he like? Did he leave him money? Did he? I don't know.
I
That's a
don't
good question.
know. Jeff was still able to get hands on beer though. He made sure he had
Yeah.
his drinking going on and whatnot, but he's all by himself up until he graduated. And then it makes me wonder, did anybody even go to Jeff's graduation? Which is really sad if you think
Oh,
about it. Like, yeah, I mean, think about it. It just food
don't
for
make
thought.
me
Did
feel
did
bad
he
for
have
him.
well, there's parts of me that I can't help but feel bad for him.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, I don't know even if he would have had the perfect childhood without all that toxicity going on. I mean, he wasn't one of those that we hear about that was locked in a basement, and forced to sleep on a floor. He
Yeah.
wasn't one of those that was beat all the
He
time.
just
It
had a
wasn't
broken
that
home
type of
between the
neglect.
parents. Yeah.
He did. He did. He didn't have the my mom's a drug addict and my dad's in prison scenario, but it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows like what most people's childhood is. It
Yeah.
was still a toxic household. So I can't help but kind of be like, part of me feels bad, but then I'm like, even if, sorry, my eyes itching, but even if he would have not had the toxicity going on, I feel like he did get some of Joyce's genetics, and he was mentally unstable, no matter how you go about it.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's
Yep.
just, but yeah, so Jeff is all alone in this house, drinking it up. Somehow or another, he's eating because he's still alive. But I mean, I don't know where that came from, but
Gosh, you know him. You're
he's
like, what is he
managing to survive.
eating?
Well,
Nothing's
later on
happened
down
yet.
the
Yeah,
years,
yeah.
nothing. Yeah, nothing has happened yet. Doesn't mean he hasn't been having these dark thoughts or whatever. But he's cruising one day, and he comes across the infamous hitchhiker Stephen Hicks,
Stephen
and
Hicks.
he does talk about he did find him attractive, and he stops and he looks at Steven. He's like, "Hey, I got the house to myself. Do you want to come have a few beers and hang out?" And he's like, "Yeah, let's go." So he goes with him to Jeff's house. I've read different things that they did have intercourse, and I have read that they did not have intercourse and that they were just kind of hanging out.
Didn't he
You look like you're
promise?
about to.
Yeah, didn't he promise to take him somewhere, like a party?
He was supposed to go to a concert, if I'm not
Yeah, and
mistaken,
he was like,
and
"Well, let's
he
go to my
did
house
promise him.
first and pregame,
Yeah.
and then I'll take you."
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, and he said that he would take him to the concert.
Okay.
I don't know if Steven was walking to like a friend's house that and he was going to go for I
I
don't know
think
how
that
all that
I
like
think that was the scenario that I've looked into. He was headed to a friend's house and they were going to go to the concert.
yeah, he well um hold on, let me look. Now you have me questioning.
It's yeah,
Well,
it
this
doesn't
doesn't
matter.
say.
He ended up with Dahmer. So, yeah.
Regardless, he did. What, no matter where he was going, I'm pretty certain it was a concert. I don't know if he was going to meet friends, like he was on his way to meet friends and then go or whatever. But he does meet up with Dahmer. They do hang out. Again, I don't know if they had intercourse. I've read different things that there was a willing sexual encounter, and then I've read otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
But the guy's ready to leave. He's like, "All right, let's go.
You
You're
told me
gonna
you're going to
take
take me
me."
here. Yeah.
And Jeff's like, "No, let's hang out a little bit longer." And he's like, dude, I gotta go. And they get into an altercation, and he goes to leave. And Jeff picks up a dumbbell and he knocks him in the head. And his reason was he didn't want him to leave. He was like, I didn't want him to leave. Well, it ended up killing him. And then Jeff ended up masturbating right over his body. I probably should have done a trigger warning, and I just went straight into it. I'm so sorry. It
Couple
might be a little
seconds
late for
too
trigger
late,
warning.
but there's a trigger
Yeah,
warning,
a
yes.
couple seconds too late. Yeah, trigger warning.
Wasn't there a
So,
struggle? Like, didn't he hit him or try to hit him first? But there was like a fight, a struggle, and then he finally knocked him out.
not it was. I don't think it was a big struggle
Okay.
at all. I've always the way I've understood it is he turned and he literally just got him
Okay.
and he fell. And at that point, I don't think he was instantly dead. I think he hit him a few more times. But it was in that very moment that Jeff learned killing is what gets me going, kind of thing. And
He got me
of
going
course,
and
he
kept
did
them
what he
still
did.
like I like them.
Exactly. Exactly. So he ended up taking him to the crawl space underneath the house.
Mm-hmm.
And he was there. He ended up burying him. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back. He dismembered him before he buried him. Then he buried the remains. That wasn't enough. It was like 3 or 4 days after that. He unburied him, dismembered him more, ended up crushing the bones, and got rid of all
Mm.
the evidence. Like he did a lot.
And this is still the house in Bath.
This is still the house. The house
Okay.
that he grew up in Bath,
We need to
where
go to this
people like.
house. We're gonna be those annoying people.
I would. I'm curious. I mean, I would be curious to see it, but I wouldn't be one of those that's like, oh my god, take my picture in front of it and look
Yeah.
where I was. I was at. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be like that, but I would be very curious to see
Where it
to
all
see it.
happened. Yeah.
Yeah. Um. he obviously in that moment kind of knew that it's like that event as a whole, the dismembering, all of that really, really struck that dark energy,
Yeah.
that lived within
It like a
him.
woke a
That's what
monster.
done him. It did.
Yeah.
It woke a monster, 100%.
Yeah.
Um, Lionel, at this point, so it was just within a few weeks of Dahmer's first murder. Lionel discovered that Jeff had been living completely by himself, and at this point, he had actually started seeing Jeff's stepmother. I don't think that they had been married yet, but they were actively seeing one another. And the only reason that he discovered that Jeff was by himself is he went to go check on Jeff, and then he discovered, holy fuck balls, like, you're by yourself, and he felt really, really bad about that. And of course, Jeff has graduated high school. He needs a game plan, so he's like, you know what? I'm going to enroll you in Ohio State University, and I'm going to pay for you to go to college. And this is where we're going to stop our part one. Okay. Yes, we're going to stop right here at Jeff's. Jeff's already killed somebody,
First
but he's
murder's
going to go to
down,
college.
and he's
First
off to
murder
college.
down. And he's off. He's killed somebody, and now he's off to college.
He's
So
going to the
like normal.
Ohio State. Hang my head.
Yes, he is.
Ugh,
He is going to Ohio State University.
I'm sorry,
Um,
Ohio State.
you know, yeah. I'm sure they're sorry too that
I,
that name has to be
they probably
associated with him.
scribbled his name out of stuff, his face. I
But
would too.
don't worry. In part two, we're going to dive into how his college, how his education went, which wasn't very smoothly. Spoiler alert. I don't know if he was anticipating him to get his PhD in chemistry or whatever.
It doesn't happen.
He goes, sorry to bust your bubble, but that is not what happened. We will dive more into the additional murders that happened because, again, Jeff's a lot. He's a whole fucking situation,
Ugh,
and it's a lot. It's
it
really
is a lot.
heavy.
And because this is going to continue, we are going to hold off doing the girls segment until the
Hmm.
last episode. So
I
they
feel
can
like
hear the
they're
whole
really
story.
grossed out already, and they're like,
Oh,
we don't want to
probably.
talk about it. Like,
I highly expect a bunch of ooze from them. That seems to be
they're
their
like, we
favorite
don't want
thing.
to talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like they're already disgusted. I feel like the energy in my house is really heavy right now, and they're like,
We're going to need to sage both places. Get his
they're
nasty
like,
ass
you need to go
energy out of
take a
here.
bath after. Go take a bath.
Their bath is
So what do
alcohol
our
wipes.
yes, yes, it is.
She's like, wait
Yeah,
a minute, I really do
leave them
bathe
alone.
them with alcohol wipes.
I do. I had to think about it. I do clean my dolls with alcohol pads. But anywho, Ash, what do they need to do?
They need to follow us. We are on most social medias: Facebook, Instagram. You can watch on YouTube, listen on Spotify. We're on TikTok. Um, and just, yeah, listen, support. We love it. We love you guys. So stay with us, even if this isn't your guy. Um, just
I
skip the
know.
next couple episodes and come back to us, please. So,
Yes.
yeah.
All right. See you guys later.
Bye.